lecture we were discussing about the factors which is affecting the permeability. So permeability which is depend upon many factors. So there are various factors for so were listed below. First is grain size, then second is called as the temperature, then the void ratio, the properties of pore fluids, stratification of the soil, then the absorb water, then interrupted air and organic impurities, and the degree of saturation, the shape of particles, and last one, that is structure of the soil mass. Okay, so there are 10 factors which affects the permeability, okay, or which influence the permeability while passing from one place to another place. What are various factors that affect while water that can be passes from one place to the another place? What are various obstruction that were made? Okay, so these are the 10 obstruction. Okay, so first of all, first factor, that is the grain size. First factor, that is called as a grain size. Okay, so this grain size, or we can call as effective size. Okay, D10 हमने शिव एनालिसिस में पढ़ा था ना. इफेक्टिव साइज that is D10, or effective diameter D10, that is 10% of particle size are finer than this size, which is called as the effective diameter or effective size, which is shown by letter D10. Okay, is one of the most important factor which affects the permeability. According to scientist Alan Hazen, which gave the relation for permeability for grain size, that is K equal to 100 into D10 bracket square. Okay, so where this D10 is a effective size or effective diameter. Okay, so grain size, uh, what is the effect of this grains or size of the grains on the permeability? As we already known that coarse grain soil means which is having the coarse grain means which is having the diameter more than 75 microns, and fine grain soil means which is having a diameter of less than 75 microns. Okay, coarse grain soil means which is having two types, that is either that is sand and gravel, and fine grain soil means silt and clay. Okay, so let us consider that. Okay, there will be the two sample. Okay, from that we have to percolate or percolate the water. Okay, so suppose this is one soil sample and this is a one soil sample. Here we are giving the supply of water. Okay, so this is coarse grain soil sample, or we can call as, so suppose here is a sand and here is a clay. Clay is a fine soil. Okay, so tell me that from which soil sample water can easily percolate. Okay, from from diagram or from so this coarse grain soil will having more permeability as compared to fine grain soil. यानी कि क्या कि सैंड में से ज़्यादा पानी परकुलेट होगा as compared to clay. Okay, because okay, there is a more wide ratio, more whites in a sand. Okay, more gap in a sand, as and there is a small gap in a clay. Okay, okay. So there will be more permeability for coarse grain soil, and for fine grain soil having a less permeability. There is a more capacity flowing of water, and for fine grain soil there is a less free flow of water. Sorry. Then properties of a pore fluid. Okay, so this permeability, which is directly proportional to the unit weight of a pore fluid and inversely proportional to the viscosity of a pore fluid. Okay, so this permeability, which is directly proportional to the unit weight of the pore fluid and inversely proportional to the viscosity of pore fluid. Okay, then the temperature. Okay, since the viscosity of a pore fluid decreases with the temperature, permeability increases with the temperature. Okay, जो आपका जितना टेम्परेचर बढ़ेगा, ठीक है ना, जितना आपका टेम्परेचर बढ़ेगा उतना अपना सॉइल सैंपल उतना आपका वाटर है वो दैट कैन बी इजीली और फ्रीली पास फ्रॉम द सॉइल सैंपल, ठीक है। टेम्परेचर बढ़ने की वजह से क्या होगा, तो सॉइल में क्या हो जाएंगे, क्रैक्स हो जाएंगे, ओके, विच कॉजेस स्वेलिंग और विच कॉजेस श्रिंकेज, ओके, एक्सपांशन ऑफ द सॉइल. So due to this expansion of the soil, due to heat or due to temperature, water can easily percolate due to this gap, that okay, that is, so as the temperature, it means that as the temperature increases, permeability which is goes on increasing. As the temperature decreases, permeability goes on decreasing, okay. आपका टेम्परेचर अगर that is which is called as a freeze thaw, आपका टेम्परेचर कम हो जाएगा, सो वंस अगेन कॉन्ट्रैक्शन हो जाएगा, वो सॉइल सैंपल का कॉन्ट्रैक्शन, जो गैप है वो गैप वापस वो आपके वो फिल हो जाएंगे, सो आपका वाटर वहाँ से परकोलेट नहीं होगा, ठीक है. देन द वॉइड रेशियो, ओके, सो इंक्रीजिंग द वॉइड रेशियो मीन्स द इंक्रीजिंग द एरिया अवेलेबल टू फॉर फ्लो, हेंस द परमेबिलिटी इंक्रीजेस, ओके. यानी क्या कि जैसा आपका वॉइड्स का गैप बढ़ेगा, आपका वॉइड्स का जो सॉइल सैंपल में वॉइड्स का जो वॉइड है उसमें का गैप जितना बढ़ेगा उतना ज़्यादा पानी आपका क्या हो जाएगा, फ्लो हो जाएगा. इट्स मीन्स दैट इंक्रीजिंग द एरिया ऑफ द वाइड रेशियो, so increasing the wide ratio, increasing the area available for flow, hence the permeability which is goes on increasing, okay. so उसके लिए एक relation है, so this permeability is directly proportional to the square of the void ratio, that is K is directly proportional to the E square, okay, or permeability, that is K is directly proportional to the E cube upon 1 plus E. दिस इज द रिलेशन, ओके. ये रिलेशन आपको याद नहीं रखो, आपको ये ऑनलाइन के लिए या ये आ जाएगा, K इक्वल टू ई स्क्वेयर और K इक्वल टू ई क्यूब अपॉन 1 प्लस ई, ओके. दिस इज द रिलेशन you have to remember, okay. Next one, the next factor, that is the stratification of the soil. So what is mean by this stratification? Stratification means the strata, means called as strata means layer upon the layer, okay. You know the strata. So while we are excavating the soil, there are various kinds of strata we generally observe, okay. Suppose at the top of the strata, while excavating we are observing, suppose at the top of the strata there will be the black cotton soil. We are excavating at the more depth, we observe there will be the murum, and below that murum we have in the rocks. That is called the strata. Strata means layer upon layer of the soil, okay. So for when the flow is parallel to the stratification, permeability will be maximum, and when the flow is perpendicular for the stratification, permeability will be minimum, okay. So from the diagram we can easily understand, okay. So what is meant by stratification? So layer, so this is one layer, this is second layer, so this is a layer of black cotton soil, so this is layer of murum, and this is layer of rock, okay. So what is the statement is that when the flow of the water, so suppose this is the two kind of flow, so this is, we can call as K1, and so here is a second flow, so where is we can call as K2, K1 and K2, means when the flow of water is parallel, so this is a parallel, means the K1 is parallel to the stratification. When the flow of water is parallel to the stratification, अब ये देखो ये ऐसा लेयर है, पानी ऐसा जा रहा है, बराबर ना, तो इजीली पानी क्या हो जाएगा, पास हो जाएगा. तो यहाँ से ऊपर से पानी पास नहीं हो जाएगा, मीन्स हेयर फ्लो ऑफ सॉरी, तो ये फ्लो क्या हो गया आपका, परपेंडिकुलर हो गया ऊपर से. So अगर flow of water is parallel to the stratification, means permeability will be more, so there will be easy flow of water. And when the flow of water is perpendicular, permeability will be minimum, means K1 will be more discharge, K1 will be the more discharge or more permeability, and K2 will be the more minimum permeability. It means that the flow of water is parallel to the stratification or parallel to the layers, or okay, permeability will be maximum, and when the flow of water is perpendicular to the stratification, तो पानी यहाँ से ऊपर से जा रहा है और आपका लेयर ऐसा है तो आपका पानी नीचे कम जाएगा. So when the flow of water is perpendicular to the stratification, permeability will be less. Okay, so next one, that is the interrupted air and the organic impurities. Okay, so this interrupted air and organic impurities will obstruct the flow of water and hence the permeability which goes on decreasing. ठीक है, so let us consider that. So ये आपका suppose there is sorry. सपोज ये आपका एक चैनल है, ये चैनल में से क्या जा रहा है, वाटर जा रहा है, लेकिन इसमें क्या है, सम इम्प्योरिटीज है. इम्प्योरिटी यानी कि क्या है, सपोज सम सॉर्ट ऑफ, अब इसमें क्या इम्प्योरिटीज है यानी क्या है की या इसमें कुछ आपल्या मराठी चलत इथे याच्यात काही पालापाचोळा आहे, ठीक आहे ना, पालापाचोळा आहे किंवा काय म्हणू आपण, याच्यात काही लिव्सचे पान आहेत सपोज, त्याच्यामुळे काय होईल की पाणी ज्यावेळेस जाणार आहे आपलं, तर यावेळेस काय होईल, तर पाणी तुमचं काय होईल, इथं स्टॉप होईल. पाणी स्टॉप होईल, इथं काय तयार होतील, इथं असे बबल्स तयार होतील, बरोबर ना, बबल्स तयार होतील आणि पाणी जिकडे जाणार आहे ते पाणी कमी जाईल कारण इथं काय तयार होतील, तुमचे बबल्स तयार होतील. कशामुळे बबल्स तयार झाले, okay, so due to this interrupted air and this some organic impurities, permeability which is goes on decreasing. Okay, then the next one, that is absorb water. So this absorb water means thin microscopic film of water surrounding individual soil grains. This water is not free to move and hence reduce the effective pore spaces and the decreases coefficient of permeability. Okay, so this absorb water means water that can be absorbed by using some atmospheric agencies. अभी आपने soil water में पढ़ा था. Okay, water that can be held by some atmospheric agencies by using some air or by using some due to sun, water that can be absorbed, okay, which forms some microscopic film around the soil sample, due to which water can be held, that cannot be passed from one place to the another place. It means that absorb water decreases the permeability. Then the degree of saturation. So as we know that degree of saturation, there are two kinds of the soil, that is called as a fully saturated soil and the partially saturated soil. Okay, by phase diagram we know that what is a fully saturated soil and what is a partially saturated soil. So fully saturated soil means soil which contains water and solid, okay, which is called as a fully saturated soil, and what soil which contains air and solid, which is called as a dry soil. Okay, so these are the two phases system, and three phase system means the soil which contains air, then water and the solid, air, water and the solid, which is called as a three phase system, or which is also called as a partially saturated soil, Okay, so fully saturated soil means which contains full amount of water, and partially saturated soil means which contains less amount of water. For fully saturated soil, degree of saturation will be 100%, and for partially saturated soil, degree of saturation it may be varying from 0 to 100, यानी 100 के और 0 के बीच में कुछ भी उसका वैल्यू हो सकता है. Okay, that is called as partially saturated soil. So for fully saturated soil there will be the more permeability, and for partially saturated soil there will be less permeability. What is the reason behind that? Because fully saturated soil which contain already full amount of water, so due to the already full amount of water there will be the more flow of water, and for partially saturated soil there will be the less amount of water, due to which less flow of the water. Okay, so it means that for fully saturated soil there will be the more permeability, and for partially saturated soil there will be the less permeability. Okay. Then the next one, that is the shape of the particle. Okay, for the angular particle which is having a less permeability as compared to the rounded particle. Okay, for rounded shape particle which is having a more permeability with, okay, and for angular shape particle which is having a less permeability. And last one, that is the structure of the soil mass. Okay, so in introduction and index property in the first unit, we see there are different kinds of structure. When we see below the microscope, there are 4 kinds of structure we generally see. Okay, first one which is called as single grain structure, then the honeycomb structure, and last one there is a flocculated and dispressed structure. Okay, so what is mean by flocculated structure? Flocculated structure means the edge to face contact between the particle. Okay, draw the diagram. So this is a flocculated structure, and this is a dispressed structure, and this is a dispressed structure. For flocculated structure, there will be more permeability, because in the flocculated structure there will be more gap. This is a more gap, and for dispressed structure there is a less gap. So this flocculated structure there will be more permeability. So यहाँ से आपका more water जाएगा, and यहाँ से आपका less water जाएगा. So it means that for flocculated structure there is more permeability as compared to the dispressed structure. Okay, thank you.